Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of A Spirited Endeavor. My name is Russ.
I'm Mark.
And tonight we're going to do a tour of some of the island distilleries of Scotland.
Yep, that's why I'm wearing my Hawaiian shirt today. You know, we were going to do an island tour. Yeah, let's see if we get hit by a storm, get lost, and end up on a desert island here for a little bit.
Well, as long as we have one of these with us, we'll be okay.
I think we'll be all right.
For a little while, anyhow.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we got four that we're going to try tonight. We wanted to do an island tour. Everyone's, we've talked about Spaysides, we've talked about Highlands, we've talked about Islas, and there's an Isla represented here. But we haven't really explored the islands out on the fringes. We've done a little bit with the Highland Park, but now we've got one tonight that isn't a Highland Park. That's on the same island, the Orkney Islands.
Yep. And it's interesting because as a result of us doing this episode, you'd start researching the islands themselves and you learn a little bit more about them, and it really is fascinating.
It really is. Yeah, the islands have an amazing history, and there was a lot to explore. And Russ has got a few notes in there about some of the islands and everything. And I got a few little tidbits here that I'm put out with each of the whiskeys and in the specs. But we got four very different whiskeys tonight.
I think so. I think each one of them is going to have its own character, its own theme going. I don't think these are going to be very... They might have similar notes to them, but I bet they each have their own character and personality.
Absolutely. Well, most of the recurring theme that we found with some of the distillers was that they really wanted to impart, the characteristics of where they're, of the islands, of where they were from. They wanted this to be an expression of those areas, and we've tried one of these before, the Talisker Storm, and it really did have that that rough, you could tell the rocky crags and the storm swept island.
Yeah.
That it was that was really an expression of that, and I'll be curious to see if the others did the same.
Yeah, I think some of these will probably be a little bit, they'll stray away from that. I hope maybe I'm wrong on that. Talisker, I remember that aspect of it. It did remind me of, you could almost picture it as you were drinking it, which was pretty neat.
You were standing on the beach, a storm was rolling in, you got some of the floral notes from behind you. It really did have that, those characteristics.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious about the others tonight.
And I think all of these are peated, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know if they're using local in all cases.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, we know that the Orkney does not. That is a non-peated whiskey.
Interesting.
And because when we did the Highland Park, made a statement that this was that they had gotten the peat from that island, and they were the only distillery to do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, as we found that the source of the peat does have a huge influence on the flavor, as well as the water supply. And each one of these being from a different island, I'm curious to see exactly what that imparts.
Absolutely. So tonight we've got four. So we've got the Jura 7-Wood, we've got the Talisker Storm, we've got the Scapa,
Orcadian?
The Skiren.
Yes.
Skiren,
Yep.
And then the Lagavulin, and this is a special edition. This is a Game of Thrones edition whiskeys. There was 8 distilleries that took part in this, and each one of them took a representation of one of the houses in Game of Thrones and put out a whiskey in tribute to each of those houses. Lagavulin got House Lannister, so apparently they paid their debts.
And going into this, I have to be honest with you, part of me expects that to be just a younger version of the 16-year-old. I don't know if they've done anything differently with it, to be honest with you, but I'll be curious to see what that one's like.
Yeah, agreed. Some of them, have been, different ages of the same whiskey,
Mm-hmm.
but we've also found some that were very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
The age made different. The thought that went into producing that particular Scotch was very different from a 12-year as was the 18 year. You know, like in the case of the Highland Park.
Yeah, and I was just thinking the exact same thing. Yeah, I'll be curious to see exactly how much changes from the 9 to the 16.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really curious about that one too.
Awesome.
All right, so yeah, you want to get started here?
Yeah, I think the first one up is going to be the Jura 7 wood, and a little bit about the island of Jura. So it's on the southwest, or off the southwest coast of Scotland. It is just north of Islay, and I mention that because we've talked a lot about Islay. It's a particular island that we've fallen in love with off the coast of Scotland, and Jura just happens to be just north of it and a little closer to the mainland. That said, it is pretty remote. There's no bridge to it or anything like that. You're solely reliant upon a ferry. To get from Jura to the mainland of Scotland, generally speaking, you have to take a ferry down to Islay, and then from Islay you take a ferry over to the mainland.
Oh, that's cool.
Now in summertime, they actually have a direct ferry from Jura over to the mainland of Scotland, but it's only during summertime, so it's pretty remote. It's also one of the smaller islands. Of the group that we're talking about tonight, it is the smallest island. It's got a square footage of 142 square miles.
Ooh, that's not big at all.
No, it isn't. They only have 196 people, residents.
Right. They also have one road,
Yeah,
one pub, and one distillery.
it is absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting place, and I wonder how much of that remote nature comes through in this. I know with the other Jura that we tried, that was their baseline, and it's good, but I didn't get that kind of ocean side. It wasn't a smack you upside the head with peat or brine or anything like that, so I'm curious to see what this brings to the table. But I will say, for such a small place, they really do have a very interesting character to their whiskey.
Well, the Jura, the 10 year that you introduced me to, is a fabulous whiskey, and one I put into my bar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that's a fun one. I enjoyed it. It's got some flavors that are a bit unique, something that's more accessible in some respects than it would be in some other ones. Very drinkable.
Yeah, we used the 10 year when we did the challenge.
Yes.
And again, there was the characteristics of that are so interesting and
Yeah.
can fool you in a few different ways.
Yeah.
And man, did I have that one pegged wrong? You know, it got the flavor notes I think right on, but I swore that was a Highland.
It's a tough one to pick. Like I said, it doesn't come across like a typical island distillery.
Right.
So I'll be curious to see what they've done here. Reading some of the stuff, and I think you've got some notes on the actual whiskey itself. They put a lot of work into this from the sounds of it.
Yeah, they
I
really
expect some real complexity.
Yeah, well, the 7 wood. Well, let's do the specs on this one. All right, so this is the 7 wood. There's no age statement on it. It's 42% alcohol by volume. Cost on it was about $85. You could probably find it for about $70. I've seen it as high as $119 online. So it really does run a gambit there. This is a first bourbon cask, but then they also use 6 other casks. And let me see if I can do this without murdering them. All right, so it's the Vosges, Vosges, Julipes,
There's a bunch.
Yeah, there's a bunch. Bertaranges, Alier, Tronsois, and Limousine casks.
Limousine casks.
Limousine casks.
Lincoln, or are we talking Cadillac?
Yeah, no, that would be as my sister would say, a Lincoln Townhome. Okay, so these impart a spicy, chocolatey, fruity flavor into the whiskey. And again, the details of this is let me finish this. The region is the islands, the inner Hebrides, Yep. To be exact. And this one has color added, but I really question whether it does or not.
Yeah.
And I did not find a statement about it being how it was filtered. My guess is when we see it in the glass, we'll have an idea on that. Yeah. Okay, so the nose on this one, they really want the spice, the nutmeg and ginger. That's going to come out. The strawberry jam, bready, nutty, tropical. So it's going to have a lot going on. It's probably going to be
Yeah.
very complex. The 6 different woods are going to add a lot of complexity to this
I would
one.
expect, yeah.
The palette, lemon peel. It's going to be oaky, sawdusty, oaky. Apricot, peaches, vanilla. I mean, we're going to get those vanillas in there.
So
And the finish on it, yeah, thank you. The finish on it is heavy vanilla and a hint of smoke and sea spray. So again, trying to bring that island's flavor to it.
yeah, I'd like to learn a little. I'll have to read up on the actual barrels that were used in this and what each one of them imparts. I would assume some of those are wines, although I'm not familiar enough to say one way or the other. But I mean, color-wise, it's definitely an amber color.
Yeah, very dark.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, all of these are very similarly colored.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, I apologize on the murdering of the name. I haven't had enough scotch tonight.
Interesting. It is a little lighter in the glass than I expected. So in the bottle, it seems a little darker, not much. I mean, we were talking about it. Color isn't everything by any means. Some of our favorite whiskeys have been clear.
Yeah, it's got good glass cling. Looks maybe a little thinner, so maybe
Yeah.
it is a chill filter.
As long as it's tasty.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do the first step on that.
Floral.
Floral, fruity. I got that sea spray in there too.
It's not dark. I was kind of expecting a darker type of flavor to it.
Yeah.
This is a very light note to it.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, and now we're talking about like the jam flavors, like strawberry jam and
Right.
raspberry and everything.
Yeah, you're not getting
I'm
dark
not-
fruits like plums or anything like that, or at least I'm not picking up on.
No, but I got that breadiness to it.
Yeah.
That comes through. It does have a bready, almost nutty kind of quality to it.
Yep, I'm picking up on that as well. Now that's something that I picked up in the Jura 10. So that may be just reminiscent of the still that they use or something else, but it does seem to carry over to this.
Yeah, that smells really nice.
It seems to have more of an almost wine type influence than the 10 did.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm getting the spices in it now, kind of in repeated inhales. I'm picking up a little spiciness in there, a little ginger.
Oh, that's interesting. It is a little thin compared to some of the others that we've had. Not excessively so, but
Yeah, it's
Wow.
spicy.
yeah.
Yeah, it really is spicier than I thought it would. Well, maybe we, with the the 7 different oaks in there,
Right.
7 different casks. Maybe I should be expecting the spicy. It's in there. I also get that like right up front, and it's just a hint. But man, is that like a sawdust? Like an oakiness.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's there. It's like a ghost of that, and then it's gone.
Yeah, it's not lingering.
And then on the back end of that, I really get that vanilla.
Yeah, that's what I'm picking up on right now.
I'm not getting any smoke in that.
I'm not getting any smoke. I am picking up maybe a little almost toffee note on the very tail end of it. It's pleasant. It's definitely spicy. More so than the 10, by all means.
Yes, for sure. The 10 was very buttery, and this is spicy.
Yeah, it's got a bite to it.
It really does. It doesn't have that it has like a pleasant alcohol burn to it, but nothing like right up front. Nothing that's punching your
Yeah.
palate.
No, this definitely isn't ABV burn. It's definitely the spice imparted by a barrel, I would say.
Yeah, and it's a 42 ABV, so I didn't expect it to have a huge punch. But
That's very different than what I expected, especially having tried the 10.
yeah,
I think the 10 had a little bit more oil to it. It was a little thicker, which I personally prefer. Because at least with that, you tend to get a little bit more after the fact.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It
It
clings to your
lingers.
palate a
Yeah.
little. The oils cling to your palate. You can get those lingering tastes on this. This doesn't really linger.
No, I agree. I do pick up like a kind of a nutty type profile,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a walnut or something like that. It is not overpowering, but you pick up on it just a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, that's quite tasty.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely got the brininess all the way through that. You know, it does have that sort of dill pickle,
Yeah, it's
you
a
know,
little salty.
little salty going on in there. You know, gets you with the sweet up front, but then kind of the salty on the back end.
Yeah. So they clearly amped up the 10. I mean, there's no doubt about that. This has a lot more punch to it than the 10. The 10 was real smooth, real easy to drink. This one's still easy to drink, but it definitely has more of that spice going on.
Yeah. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. Well, it is light. I mean, that's the nice thing about it. There's no dark flavors to it. So something on a nice warm day, I could see this being really nice.
Yeah, after repeated sips on this thing now, I'm really getting that brininess on the back end.
As you acclimate to the other flavors, you start picking up the other stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
a little less vanilla now, a little more brine.
Yeah. Interesting though. I mean, there's a nice complexity to that where it's not the same thing every single sip. You start picking up on different items as your taste bud, as you acclimate to the glass.
Yeah, that's great. So that's a Jura 7-wood.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that one caught me by surprise. I was expecting something different. I kind of just figured it was going to be a version of the 10-year.
Yeah, it's very different than the 10-year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cleanse my glass here for just a second.
Yeah.
Okay. The second one up tonight, the Talisker, and this is the Storm. Again, there's no age statement on this one. Single malt, 45.8% alcohol by volume. So that one's gonna have a little bit more of a punch to it. The cost on it about $70 a bottle. And the finish is select refill and toasted American oak. The region is Isle of Skye. It does have color added, and I don't believe it's chill filtered, but I couldn't find a statement on the fact. And again, that's not a huge deal breaker for me. So this was the single malt of the year by Whiskey Advocate in 2013.
I did not know that.
That was pretty interesting. It's heavily influenced by its location and embodies the rocky, stormy lashed Isle of Skye, and it really on earlier tasting of this really did kind of prove that to be true. It was a fine whiskey though, and I'll be curious to see now that we're out of the neck pour what that's going to mean for us.
Well, and our palates, I'm sure, have evolved a bit since we first tried this.
Yeah, this
too,
was a
so.
very early one for us to
It
try.
really was. Maybe the second time we got together with these.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Talisker house was leased by Hugh and Kenneth McCaskill by the Clan MacLeod. There can only be one. And converted into a distillery in 1830. They really have a mission statement about wanting to impart the deep maritime intensity of the Isle of Skye into their whiskeys. This one especially.
So here's the bottle and the color, which they've all been pretty similar in color. Now I will say I did hit the liquor store earlier, and I did happen to find a bottle of this for $45. Perhaps I should have jumped on that. I was a bit surprised by it.
Yeah, and then, again, I think that was the online price.
Sorry, throwing things here. Don't mind me.
Yeah, that was the online price. I don't believe I spent that much on that bottle.
Yeah, I think
it was more like a $50 bottle.
Yeah.
Okay, so the nose on it: spicy oak, smoked beef, peppery, and really going to get some honey notes in this one. The palate on it is going to be thick and briny, and this is what leads me to believe it's not chill filtered, is because it is a very thick and oily whiskey. So the palate thick and briny, metallic tin, sort of that iodine, medicine-y kind of flavor to it, and it's got a little bit of chili heat to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the finish on it: red chili pepper, oaky, smoky, And I'm curious to see what we think of this one again.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So this is on the Isle of Skye, if I remember correctly.
It is on the Isle of Skye. It's the only distillery on the Isle of Skye.
Yeah, so they kind of have the market cornered over there. Now, as I recall, the Isle of Skye was pretty good size. I read it's around 639 square miles, population of around 9,000, so it is one of the bigger islands, certainly larger than Jura. And it's northwest coast of the mainland, so a little further north than Jura or the Isles for that matter. So, interesting place. I'll be curious to see what this tastes like.
In our initial, when we go to Scotland to do our
yeah.
distillery tour come up, the Isle of Skye is definitely on.
I would have to agree with that.
We're gonna have to go there.
Yeah,
I think we're bouncing from. We're gonna be bouncing along the west coast.
I think so. Well, most of the islands are connected by ferry. So that's the nice thing. Once you leave the mainland, you can hit the islands and just bounce from one to the next via ferry. Matter of fact, a lot of these islands, the only way to get from there to the mainland is by a ferry, as we discussed earlier with Jura. So yeah, I think it's going to be a trip.
Yeah, it really is. All right, well, we're excited about that. Hopefully, COVID will allow us to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
All right, maybe. All right, so yeah, the
Color's similar.
Color is similar to. It's got that a little. I mean, it's a light amber color.
Yeah, definitely more oils than what we found in the Jura.
Yeah, it's a much oilier whiskey than the Jura.
I think it'll be a little bit thicker on the palate as well.
Yeah, this is going to have good palate cling. I remember being very pleasantly enthralled with this one.
Now I remember it.
Oh yeah.
It's been that kind of time, that long since we tried this last, that I couldn't remember for the life of me what our experience was. And the second I smelled it, it's like, oh, I know that one.
I know this one. It's the honey. I mean, you really do smell honey in that.
But you get that seaside too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a little bit of and a little bit of that oakiness, a little bit of peatiness in that.
That's really a well-rounded nose.
It really is. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah, for the price, you're getting a lot on the nose at least.
I really do kind of get that smoked beef kind of in there too. You know, it really does have that, like a little barbecue. Just a hint of it, but it's there.
Yeah. Man, I like the smell of it. That's nice.
Wow.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's good. That's wow.
It's got the peat in there. It's peaty.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's got that meat kind of flavor to it, like a barbecue flavor almost. It's very similar to Ardbeg. Not quite as in your face as Ardbeg, but it's definitely got some similarities to it.
Yeah, it really does have those smoky notes to it.
Yeah.
Man, that is so pleasant. And on the end of that, I got the little chili spice in that.
Yep. So, wow, that's tasty.
Briny. It's also briny. I picked that up more on the back end of it now.
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, I got that up front, not overpowering, and it seems to continue through. I'm getting a little bit more of the peppery notes.
Yes.
On my second taste than I did the first. And yeah, it's like a red pepper almost.
Yeah. Again, yeah,
like a cayenne or
like a cayenne or
yep.
like a chili pepper.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not wrong about that. Yeah, I really do get that in there. And then again, just the kind of the smokiness on the back end of that, and it's not like a lot, and because I don't think they needed a lot.
No, this to me is it's very similar to a tamed down Ardbeg 10. Ardbeg smacks you upside the head with it. This is a bit mellower, even though it's not mellow. I mean, it certainly has character.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this. There's a lot of complexity. I'm certainly picking up. I'm not picking up as much fruit on this one, but I definitely got the caramel and the butterscotch and the vanilla. Mixed a little bit with the smoke and the peat and and the brininess and everything too. It's like it's like I took 3 of my favorite whiskeys and kind of put them in a glass here.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't call this a lighter taste. It definitely seems to be a bit darker. As far as you're right, there isn't a whole lot of floral. There isn't a lot of fruitiness to it. It's definitely meaty, briny.
Yeah, exactly.
Smoky.
It really reflects the island. Something that's storm swept, that's rocky, craggy. You kind of get that in there.
And as I get further into this, I get a little bit more of that on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's a fun one.
Mm-hmm. One for a non-age statement, and at that kind of price, I mean, if that's what I saw, the 45, I think it was, is the going price for that, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
That really is. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
That smell sticks with you though, because again, recognizable right off the bat.
Yeah, that's a fun whiskey.
Yeah.
And there's I found some others, and we'll be checking out a couple of others of the Taliskers coming up. There's an 18-year, and then there's a I can't think of the other one now, but it's more. I think it might be a 12. So we'll check those out in upcoming episodes.
Yeah. I will say this lingers nicely. I still had a little bit of that pepper on the tongue, not uncomfortably so, but it was still there. You had the taste, and
yeah, the
it
water
stuck around a little bit.
Yeah, the water I used to cleanse my palate on there to unlock something else in that. I'm wondering if a drop of water in that would be.
I bet you might see.
I
some
bet you that would change it. Yeah.
I wonder if it would bring the spice forward.
I'll take one for the team.
What a guy!
All right, there's a little bit of water left in that glass, so I'm gonna just take a quick taste just to see what that's like.
And I will say, this is for somebody that's coming off of bourbon. This would be completely different.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to get similar flavors.
That really unlocked something citrus in there.
Really?
Yes.
Now that's surprising. I figured the spice and pepper would come forward on that.
I'm getting that too, but I'm getting a citrus. I'm not getting a floral in that at all, but I'm getting that citrus and that spice in there. Drop some water in that one.
I am curious. So again, the idea is if you put just a little bit of water in there, it brings the oils to the surface, and that oftentimes will give you a different flavor or taste.
Completely changes it. Very briny now. Very, very briny now.
Ooh,
more peat. I get a lot more peat in that flavor.
Oh, it definitely changed it.
Yeah.
Completely different animal. I wonder if that's the peat.
I think it's the peat, because I definitely pick up more of that peat in there now.
Yeah, that's definitely forward. I wonder if that's what's bringing some of the citrus with it too. If there's something in the peat that we're picking up on.
Yeah, if it's like some of the others, like the peat that they use in the Islas and everything, have heavy heather influences in that. And I'm wondering if that might be similar here. That's interesting. God, that one is so interesting. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's certainly really interesting. Yeah. And one I'm going to keep coming back to.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be happy to have it. Don't get me wrong. I would certainly enjoy that. That's kind of in my wheelhouse as far as the salty aspect, the briny aspect. I tend to enjoy that. That said, yeah, I agree. I wouldn't consider it a favorite of mine, but it is. You know what? For what you pay, and again, a non-age statement, that is anything but dull. I will say they did their homework on that one. I'm impressed.
I think so. I'd be curious to see what the other vintages are going to be.
I wonder if it tames some of that down and imports something else in place.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what a little bit of age does to that.
Yeah. It's interesting that that's something that stuck with us since probably like the second time we got together over scotch. And here we are drinking it again and finding some enjoyment with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just fun to me.
Well, that's a cool thing about revisiting them, especially after you've tried others and then kind of going back to some of these.
Yeah.
It really kind of puts things in perspective a little bit, and maybe something you didn't think much of, has now got the characteristics that that you've enjoyed, or maybe even ones that you've liked, maybe you're not going to like so much.
Yeah.
That's really the interesting part.
Well, your palate only knows what it's experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear us using terms to describe it like briny or salty or, like a dill pickle or something like that, that's what we compare it to. That's something that we've tasted in the past, and we can kind of say, okay, this is similar in some respect to that. But, as you go on in life and you taste more things and you experiment with more things, that palate develops further. And the same things happen with these whiskeys. As we've gone through all these different types of whiskeys, our palate has developed and changed, and we can recognize things where perhaps we couldn't before. We couldn't quite put a finger on it. So that's the interesting thing for me, is just seeing where we are now versus where the whiskey is.
And it's true. And again, we say that this is an exploration, this is a journey, and as we're going along in the journey, we're learning so much more.
Yeah.
As we go along. Not even all about Scotland and in the distilleries and things like that, but also the flavor palettes that they use, and the visions that the distillers have that really paint a picture.
Yeah.
Man, this has been so much fun.
Well, and if somebody at some point told me you're going to drink something that smells like iodine and you're going to like it, I'd have told them they were full of it.
Yeah.
And yet here I am.
Yeah, very good. Okay. All right. So the next one up is the Scapa, the Arcadian. The name on this one is the Skirin, which actually comes from Old Norse and means glittering bright skies. All right. So glittery. No age statement on this one either. It's a single malt, 40% alcohol by volume, about $80 a bottle. First fill bourbon, American oak. The region on it is Orkney. So again, same island with Highland Park. It does have color added, and we'll figure out if it's chill filtered or not. Yeah. It's the second most northern distillery in Scotland. It's a half a mile away from the Highland Park, so they're pretty close, but they distill completely different. So again, these guys don't use peat at all in their whiskey. So the nose on this is the island. They liken it to the island's apples. So they have a Scapa apple.
Oh.
And they really try to capture that in there. Toffee, sea spray, medicinal, and then it's going to be something akin to rye. So yeah, so they liken this that it has similarities to like a rye whiskey.
Well, you had me at toffee and apple, to be honest with you.
I
That
know,
just
right?
sounds really good.
It really does. The palate on it's gonna be soft and sweet, and you're gonna get that buttery shortbread, kind of palate to it. A little bit of ground spice in there.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
And then the finished apple, green leaves, and brown sugar. So I'm expecting this one to be very smooth, very sweet, and I'll be curious to see what we think of it.
Yeah. So the Orkney. So this is made on what's called the mainland of Orkney. So Orkney is actually a collection of islands. There's like 70 islands in Orkney. So it's pretty big when you look at it, and it's right off the northern tip of Scotland. So it's right at the very top there. And the largest island in the group, they call that the mainland, and that's where this is distilled, as well as the Highland Park. It's those are the only two distilleries out of 70 islands.
Oh, that's
in the
cool.
Orkneys. It's
An
pretty wild.
archipelago, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. So the bottle and the color, again, all very similar.
It's a beautiful bottle.
It really is. It's almost like a
sailing
wine bottle.
Almost like a wine bottle. A little sailing ship on it and
Yeah.
everything. It's I'm very taken with the packaging on this one.
I agree.
You know, it feels soft and serene and everything,
Yeah.
and we know that island is anything but that.
And that's a good point. You know, the other ones, they tend to sell it as this rugged coastline and, you know, harsh environment and so on and so forth. And this one kind of paints a nice serene picture.
Yeah, and the Highland Park, their whole thing is, you know, Vikings and
Right.
you know, and battle and, you know, Valkyries and, you know, eating the hearts of your enemies and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is just like, you know, hey,
Scappa.
we're gonna have a Scappa. We're gonna give you a sailing boat.
Here's a pretty sailboat.
Yeah, here you go. Ooh, that really does have a very nice, sweet floral bouquet to it.
Of all the ones we've tried, that's the first one I've caught that aroma on.
Yeah. It smells soft.
That's unique.
It smells soft.
Yeah. Again, for some, you know, you look at the features of the land that this was distilled on, and you think it's got to be rugged and tough, and you know it's going to take some. No, this is pretty.
This is
pretty.
It is pretty.
Wow, it really
that
is.
is the prettiest smelling Scotch I've smelled.
That is insane.
Oh man, I really like that. Very
Sweet.
and you don't really get that alcohol punch in that. It's only 40% alcohol by volume, so it's not. They're not trying to you know give you a flying elbow kick to the
Yeah, you're
to
not
the palate.
getting clubbed over the head.
Mm-mm.
Wow, that is unique. That's probably
So different than the Highland Park.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what I can compare it to. It's definitely sweet on the nose. I wouldn't call it floral.
You know, when they said apples,
You know what? You're right.
I get apple
Yeah.
in that. You know, like you know, not like
Curious to see where you go with this.
yeah, and I'm not thinking like apple cider.
No.
I'm talking like an apple juice. You know, like like you bite into an apple
Yep.
and you get that you know
Yep.
that sweetness and everything right up front. Not like a Granny Smith, but more like a Honey Crisp.
Yeah.
You know,
you're
where you
right.
get that really sweetness into it, and I really get that in that nose.
That's exactly what it is.
It smells like a Honeycrisp apple.
That is insane. Oh, I'm dying. Let's see.
Okay. Wow. Smooth.
No bite.
Smooth. No bite at all.
And that citrus kind of apple thing carries through right from the beginning. Oh man, get a little.
And then on the back end, you know,
Yeah.
gulping in a little bit of air with it.
Oh,
I really am getting that apple in there.
That's insane. That is very unique. I've probably said that 3 or 4 times now. It is absolutely true. I've not had anything quite like this.
That is really, really amazing.
The what was the one we were talking about earlier that you picked up? It's that blend.
the Compass Box.
We did that Compass Box, not the blend one that you just picked up, but the one prior to that. And it was a very distinct kind of sweet note to it.
Right, that was a limited edition Compass Box. That was, but that was also a single malt. It wasn't the blend.
That one was in your face with that. This
Yes.
is very kind of mellow. You pick up these notes, but they're not confrontational about it.
The sailboat is like a perfect metaphor for this Scotch.
And you know it's got good oils. It's not real thin on the palate.
Yeah, it wants to take its time, and you know it's going to impart the flavors, and it's going to dole them out to you just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, nothing a rush. This is amazing.
Yeah, if you go into this looking for something that's going to be in your face with flavor, this isn't it. Everything is really subdued and kind of mellow on this. The flavors are there, but it's something, it's tough to describe. I've not had anything quite like it.
Yeah, on repeated sips on this now, I'm getting a little grassiness in there on the back end.
Yeah.
And again, there's nothing offensive in there at all. It is just here's just a nice smooth ride for you.
I see why they mention rye. Because I do pick up a little bit of that, especially considering what we had as kind of the fluffer at the beginning of this.
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, we actually primed the pump, so to speak, with a little bit of rye before we started, just to get our palates activated. And man, it really does have something
A
akin
couple
to that.
sips into it, and I'm really starting to pick up on that more than I was at the beginning, and it really does kind of harken back to what we had earlier.
Not as buttery as that, but
No, not by any stretch.
but certainly you really get that fruitiness, and it's not like a sweet fruit.
No.
I mean, it's sweet like an apple. An apple sweet.
Yeah, you get some of that stuff that it almost tastes like that artificial flavor that you get in a candy or something like that. This tastes like the real deal. Yeah. It's not that condensed apple flavor. It's just like an apple.
Like you ate an apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not like drinking apple juice, but you like ate an apple.
Yeah. That is really cool.
I'm really, really digging that one.
Yeah. Again, you would expect, being an island, being as rugged as some of these places are, something completely different.
Yeah, that really, and the word that comes to mind, and I've said it already, is soft.
Yeah.
The flavor palette on it is very soft.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's inviting you in. Yeah.
There's yeah, I think just about anybody could drink this. The only downside I think is if you're coming off of something that's especially got a real vanilla kick to it or something like that, and you're expecting something similar to this, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're willing to just kind of accept this for what it is, take your time with it, it's really cool.
Absolutely. This is one I would just sit back on
Yeah.
a cold winter day and just sip it, in front of a fire. I think it's the whiskey to do that with.
Yeah, it's not heavy, it's not overpowering, and it's not dull. I mean, it's got a few different things going on there. It's not all apple. Like you said, there's definitely some grasses going in there. You get that rye note.
Yeah, I'm getting that buttery shortbread in there. I'm getting, but it's all soft flavors. I mean,
Yeah. Very chill.
very, very chill.
I like it. That's
Yeah,
of them all, that's probably surprised me the most.
I think so.
And not a bit of peat in that.
Not even
I
a
agree.
little bit. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Mm.
All right.
Very cool.
Okay. All right. So the last one is going to be the polar opposite of that. All right. So it's a Lagavulin. All right. This is the Game of Thrones Lannister edition Lagavulin. Again, there's eight distilleries that put out one for each house. It's kind of a gimmick and everything. The cost on them each runs between from each of the Game of Thrones editions runs anywhere between like $40 and $80 a bottle. This one was on the upper end, about $75.
And Lagavulin does tend to be a bit pricey compared to some of the
It
other
does.
ones.
But I tell you what, even with the 16 year only runs about $120,
And it's worth every friggin'
It's
penny.
worth every penny of it. I've seen it down down around 115.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that price range. And if you just want a whiskey that's going to wow, the Lagavulin is certainly that.
Yeah, it's not a beginner one.
It is not a beginner. You have to kind of work up and develop your flavor palette in order to handle that one.
Yeah, matter of fact, I had a friend of mine, I speak so highly of it, a friend of mine tried this and sent me a text with a picture, something along the lines, and I'm going to paraphrase here, who the hell drinks this? Beep.
Yeah.
And it's, it throws a lot at you. And
Yeah.
if you can get past that initial shock and give it a minute, it's friggin' amazing. Now, the 9-year, I don't know what that's
I don't know.
gonna
It's
be
a
like.
younger whiskey.
Yeah.
We'll see kind of what their vision was in
Yeah.
with a younger whiskey. Now the there's an 8-year out there. I've seen an 11-year. So there's several different Lagavulins out there. And of course you can find some on the higher end. With the
Oh yeah.
much more age to them.
Well, and something worth mentioning, we've gone back to Highland Park quite a few times, and it's a favorite. The interesting thing about Highland Park is they're not stuck in a rut. They're willing to experiment and try different things. And I won't say Lefroy or Lagavulin's stuck in a rut, but they have their thing. And you taste it in the 16, and I hear that you taste it in all the others. I'm curious to see if that holds up with this.
Yeah, for sure. Have we tried any other? I haven't tried. I don't remember trying another Lagavulin. So I'll be curious to see if there's a distinct Lagavulin flavor. You know,
But
like,
I mean,
like we have with the Lefroy. You can tell
right.
like any one of those is a Lefroy.
Absolutely. But, you know, you look at Highland Park and what kind of variety do you get? How many different whiskeys do they have on the market? Lagavulin has very few. You've got the 16, the 8, which is a fairly recent thing, the 9, which was special for this, and then the 11. But they're all supposed to basically be similar to the original. So I'll be curious to see if they tweaked it a little bit.
Me too. Okay, so it's finished in ex-bourbon cask American oak. It's an Isla, like all Lagavulins. It's got color added to it, and it is chill filtered. The special edition we talked about. All right, so they say they claim that this is best served neat or with a single drop of water. So I think we're gonna do both of that. Okay, the nose on it is sweet smoke, briny. The palate, smoky caramelized banana, burnt marshmallow, vanilla, and then the finished fading salted caramel.
So very similar to how they described the 16-year, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is from Islay, which is an island off the southwest coast of Scotland. It is just south of Jura, which we've already talked about, and it probably has more distilleries than any of the other islands. Matter of fact, I think there's over 20 distilleries on this one little island at this point in time. So this is a 240 square mile island with over 20 distilleries on it. I imagine just about everybody there is either employed by a distillery or by the ferries that move people back and forth. Again, this one's been close to our heart for quite some time now, just because we've had some experience with Islay in the past. Bruichladdich was one of them, Bunahab, and there's so much character that tends to come from that one place. I'll be curious to see if this stands up.
Yeah, I spilled a little bit on my finger, and it just did the old snip a finger thing.
Am I gonna be happy?
Yeah, it's
gonna be doing my happy dance.
It's a Lagavulin.
Oh man. Oh.
Yeah.
But it's a Lagavulin with something else.
Briny. I get that briny.
Oh
in
yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, the briny, the smoky, the peaty.
Yep.
It's all of that, but I think there's more in there.
Yeah. I'm picking up just the slightest bit of citrus to it. But man, I'm getting the rest of that.
I don't know if I'm getting citrus, but I'm getting something else. I think maybe after tasting it, I'll pick it out.
It comes across like the Lagavulin 16, but with a little something extra. And
I wonder if that's because it's a younger whiskey, that there may be more happening in there.
Yeah.
It hasn't mellowed out as much.
Well, absolutely.
Man, does that,
Holy
it's
crap.
everything that's in the 16.
That's got some nice oils, though. I mean, for something that's chill filtered, that they don't totally kill it.
Yeah, that's a pretty one.
Good texture. Oh yeah. That's a
Very
Lagavulin.
spicy. Yeah, that is a Lagavulin. It's not as smoky and it's not as peaty as the 16.
I'm picking it up now.
I'm getting it on the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. It's rougher around the edges than the 16, which you would expect.
Well, it's also 46% alcohol by volume. This one
I think the regular 16 is right around there too, if I remember correctly. If it's not, it's 43. It's 43 or 46.
Yeah, but you're definitely getting that alcohol burn in there. I'm picking up more on the back end rather than the front, but I've got that spiciness all the way through.
Oh, it's definitely more. The alcohol is more up front than it is with the 16-year, which you would expect with the age. that tends to mellow on.
I'm glad we saved this one for last, because that's a little over. That can be overpowering, especially after going from the Scapa, which was just mellow and sweet, to this, which is just like, oh.
Well, and the 16 year easy for me to say, 16-year-old Lagavulin is probably one of the smoother whiskeys out there. And the ABV is well disguised or masked by the flavors. Everything kind of blends together nicely. Nothing really stands out as being as, sharp or punchy or anything like that. It's very well blended. This one comes across like a young version of that, where certain flavors kind of come up and kick you around a little bit, and then maybe later you catch the other ones. Whereas with the 16, you kind of get them all melded together.
Absolutely. And this almost doesn't feel like it's come together quite right. Or at least not, it doesn't feel like it's finished yet.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. I mean, you can tell it's based off of a Lagavulin. I'm picking up on that, but you're right. It comes across as something that's fairly immature. It's certainly not unseating the 16-year. Not in my opinion.
No.
The 16-year, they hit it out of the park.
But I do like the smokiness. I like the level of the smokiness in this. I love the level of the peatiness in this, because it really does. There's some complexity in there.
Yeah.
And and on the back end of that, I'm really getting that vanilla in there. I mean, I'm really getting that.
No, it's got the complexity of the 16. It just doesn't have the refinement, I think, is what it's lacking. In some respects, it's similar to the Talisker. I think it's closer to the Talisker than either of the other two. Because it's definitely peaty, it's definitely briny, and it's spicy. I mean, as far as you definitely get that ABV.
Absolutely.
Whereas the 16-year, I mean, I could drink that all night and not know it.
You're going to laugh, but the thing that's just running through my mind right now is I want to use that as the alcohol in a rum cake. I don't know where that came from. I mean, that's just
that. Let me know.
Oh
God, that's got.
I want to soak a rum cake cake in that.
Are you kidding me? That would be amazing. Oh, I'm dying to know what that's like.
All right, on a future episode, we're going to try the Lagavulin rum cake.
We're going to do a whiskey tasting in the form of a cake. I love this.
Very spicy.
It really is. I'm picking up some of the oak spice more than I would in the 16, obviously. More than I did in anything else here. But it's definitely a Lagavulin. I get that more on the exhale.
Yeah. And I'm really picking up on the exhale. And you see us kind of gulping air a little bit while we do this. And that really is to help bring out some of the flavors, get the oxygen mixture in your mouth with the whiskey, with your saliva. It really does help unlock some flavors.
Well, the alcohol itself, I mean, there's a lot that goes on inside a glass, and a significant portion of that is alcohol. And when that alcohol vaporizes, and if you exhale through your nose, you still get some of the aromas that are actually embedded in that alcohol. And that's what you're picking up with this. And Lagavulin has a very distinct nose to it on exhale that this definitely has. But it is certainly spicier, a little sharper on the palate than the 16-year-old.
Yeah, agreed. I think I don't think it's, like you said, going to unseat the 16 anytime soon. But it's interesting. You can definitely tell it's in the family.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And I think it's safe to say that they took what goes into the 16 and just stopped it at 9 years.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we know what those other years did.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's do our scale on this.
Okay.
All right, let's start with the Jura 7 one. What are your thoughts?
That's a tough one because I really like the 10 quite a bit. This one I enjoyed, but I didn't. I'm gonna say it's a 3.5. It didn't knock my socks off. You know, based on the number of casks and their description of the casks, I was expecting a little something different. And maybe that's not me being fair. You know, I had an expectation built up in my head of what this was going to be, which was a 10-year plus all this.
Right.
And that's not how that came across. That was completely different than the 10-year, to be honest with you. And I was looking for those things, and they just weren't there. So, yeah, that's where I'm going with it.
I don't think I'm going to be quite as generous with that one. I'm gonna put that one down to like 2.5 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like that as much as the 10-year. I
agree.
You know, it brings something new to the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's definitely a lot going on in the glass.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it well enough, but you know, I kind of wish I tried that one before I bought it.
Yeah, that I understand. The 10, that's a funny thing, you know. The 10 really did an excellent job. I mean, it's hell, the price on that was just ridiculous. And what you get in a bottle for the 10-year is just insane.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And, you know, the problem is perhaps that kind of set the bar so high, and this one just, it didn't get there.
Quite reach the bar. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to knock it down to a 3. You said you're going with like a 2.5?
2.5 to 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe just a 3.
Yeah.
I think I'll put it there. I mean, it's not unpleasant. It's not something I wouldn't you know shy away from.
Right.
I just don't know if it'd be the first one I'm going to grab.
Yeah, I think if somebody came into this blind having never tried the 10, they would probably enjoy it. But I'll be honest with you, the 10-year is available for under $40. And having had the 10 first, I think the 10's better. And it's cheaper.
It is cheaper.
So,
There you go.
you know, take it for what it is, folks.
All right. Okay, the Talisker Storm.
I enjoyed that.
Oh,
Again, that's in my wheelhouse. That has the stuff that I tend to look for. And it does it really well. It's smooth. It doesn't have a harsh bite to it or anything like that. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
It's got a little bit of the peatiness,
It
a little
really
bit of the
does.
smokiness, but not crazy.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like an Ardbeg 10, but tamed down a little bit. And I've got the Ardbeg 10 at the house, and there are nights where it's just a little too much. That's what I would go for on that kind of night.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, I might go as low as the 3.5, but my gut says 4.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. My gut on that one is it's solid 4.
Yeah.
This is something I have in my bar. Obviously, that's obviously I do. And that one, I just dig the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I just dig the hell out of it. It's like, you're right. It's like an Ardbeg and everything, but it seems to be more accessible.
Agreed. Absolutely. The edges are kind of rounded over a little bit. It comes across as a more mature dram. And Ardbeg is youthful. It's in your face. It wants to smack you around, show you how big and bad it is. Talisker, on the other hand, they've done a really good job, especially for a non-age statement. I gotta say,
What that one tells me is I need to try more Taliskers.
I agree. If that's their baseline,
And that is their
that
baseline.
makes me curious as to what the rest of them are like.
Makes me wonder kind of what their vision is for Scotch.
Yeah.
And I want to go down that path.
I agree. And again, you know, like I said, I found it at 45. You might find it at 50 or so, maybe higher. It varies. Look around, but
Yeah, whiskey prices are all over the place right now.
It's bad.
It's in some places it's hard to get the stuff you're finding online. You know, there are plenty of fine distillers or fine distributors online.
Yeah.
That you know, but they're going to charge you a little bit more for it. You know, we've been luckily, you know, we have a few really decent package stores around here
we're really lucky.
yeah, liquor stores that where we can get some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's still somewhat available. But that's tightening up.
I will say though, that is not for somebody that's new to Scotch. If you're coming in off of bourbon, that has some flavors in it that you're not going to be familiar with. Give it a minute. Again, don't judge based on the first, maybe second sip. Take some time with it. There's some cool stuff going on in that bottle.
Yeah, truly, truly. Okay, the Scapa.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like flavors that kind of do smack you upside the head. I like that peat. I like that brine. I like that character. That is so far from any of the stuff that I generally go towards, but that was really cool.
That was amazing, I thought.
That, I think, of all the four that we've talked about tonight, that's probably the one that stands out the most for me, because character-wise, it's completely different from anything else that I've tried.
It doesn't want to be anything other than
Right.
what it is.
Yeah. And again, it's an island distillery, just like all these others. They all have that salt water around them and, you know, this rough image and so on and so forth, and yet they've chosen to be this pretty sailboat.
The pretty sailboat in the storm.
But crying out loud,
My God.
that was good. That one I'm going to go with a 4.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think that's a 4. I might edge it up a little bit higher.
Yeah, as we get further into the bottle, I'll be curious.
I'll be curious to see if you know where that one's going to ultimately fall. But yeah, my initial reaction on that is a 4. You know, maybe getting toward a 4.5. It's one I really, really dug.
Yeah, that's just a cool scotch.
It is a cool scotch, and man, I could probably just live on the Orkney Islands.
Yeah, and you know that's one that I think anybody could drink. I think you come in for pretty much any other alcohol, you could probably do that.
If you're looking for a very, very smooth scotch, you know, you don't want to have a lot of smoke, you don't want to have a lot of peat. You know, you just want to pick up some of that fruitiness. You want to pick up, you know, the apple. You know, if you're a big fan of apple, then you're gonna really, really dig that one.
And I will say, you know, while we have similar tastes in a lot of respects, our palates are different.
Mm-hmm.
Me being a smoker, obviously my palate's going to be different to a certain extent anyhow, and that's shame on me for that, but it's a fact. The fact that we both picked up on that tells you exactly where that is. So again, while our tastes may be similar, our palates are a bit different. We both thought the exact same thing when it came to that one.
Yeah.
That's a cool one. I gotta give them credit. That is so unique.
Yeah, that's a great one. If you can find it, that one's a little harder to find. I found the one bottle in the area.
I've not seen that anywhere.
I've not seen it anywhere else. But when I saw that, and I saw that it was in our Orkney, I'm like, I have to get this because I'm so in love with the Highland Park.
Yeah.
To see, compare and contrast the two on the same island.
The interesting thing is I mean, if you think about Highland Park, it has some of the citrus stuff to it too.
It does.
Not anywhere near. I mean, they're very different, obviously, but there are some similarities. And I wonder how much of that is the island itself and what they're. That'd be interesting to explore.
What they're trying to bring in. Yeah. Well, if we find ourselves in Orkney, we can ask them.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll do that research for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the last one, the Lagavulin.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 I mean, look. The problem for me with the Lagavulin 9 is that I've had the 16.
Yes.
And I'm willing to pay over $100 for a Lagavulin 16 because I need some time to myself and a box of tissues. It's that kind of good. And the 9 is definitely a younger version of that. I don't think there's anything more going on in that than it is just a younger version of what you get with the 16. And I don't know that's entirely good.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's finished.
No, I agree.
I really just do not feel like they've pulled that one together yet.
Yeah. I think they hit their peak with a 16-year-old. That's what started me on the journey was the Lagavulin 16. And I think keeping it in the cask the additional years was necessary. I don't think the 9... And look, I'm not saying it's bad. I've had other Isla whiskeys that were just as briny and just as meaty and, whatnot. But the problem is there are other ones that already fit that need. The 16 was different. It was a smoother, more mature, better balanced, better rounded version of all the other stuff coming from Isla that was briny and peaty. I don't really need the 9-year. I've got a Lafroy. I've got an Ardbeg.
Yeah, I think that, you know, and yeah, just my thoughts on this are like, oh yeah, by the way, we need a special edition whiskey here, and
Yeah.
we're like, well, we've got this this one over here. This is going to be a 16. We'll just we'll just pull it now
Right.
and put it in a bottle, and I'm sure that wasn't the case, but it certainly does feel like it's not finished.
I agree wholeheartedly. And there's an 11-year version. I'm curious to see if that's just the same thing with a couple of years tacked on. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna let you buy that bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm about out of Lagavulin 16, so I've got to find something one way or the other. I don't think I'll be buying that one, and I hate to say it.
So what's your score on that one?
It pains me to say this. I'm gonna go 2.5. 2.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
really.
for me to say that about a Lagavulin saying something.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, that's a damn shame.
You know, I'm curious about the 11 year, the Nick Offerman version of that.
And I've heard they did some different things with the Nick Offerman version.
So I'm curious to see about curious to see about that one. We might have future plans with this Lagavulin though.
I could see it going that direction.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so that's where we are. So we appreciate that. Next week we're going to do something very different.
This is going to be fun.
So last week I had a barrel sitting out here, a cask. Next week we're going to figure out what we're going to fill it with.
Yeah, we're going to start doing our own blends. It's going to be a blended malt, but it's going to be our blended malt.
It's the truth. And we've got some ideas on this. We'd certainly like to, you know, we're gonna put some out here. We're gonna do some tastings. We're gonna figure out kind of, you know, what we want that flavor palette to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have some ideas on this of, you know, I wanted to, you know, start with maybe a Highland and maybe add a little bit of smoke and peat to it, and maybe you know, round it out a little bit more.
You remember in chemistry lab when you were in high school and the teacher blew his fingers off? That's kind of what we're doing, but with scotch.
Exactly.
We're going to be mixing.
We're going to be blowing our palates off.
Yes, pretty much. We're going to see what goes, what works well with one another, what plays nicely, and what's like, oh God, this is horrible. And there may be some of that.
There may be a little bit of that. So we're going to have a bunch of them out here. We're going to, you know, I've got an idea what our base is going to be.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start adding to it and see what we come up with, and then we're going to put it into the barrel, and then we're going to age the barrel and do periodic tastings over 3 months, 6 months, a year, and we're going to see kind of where we are with that.
Yeah, and it may be absolutely amazing the first 3 months, or it may be absolutely horrible, and you're going to get
really
to see
wrong.
it.
Yeah,
that's going to be fun.
And we're going to share this whole experiment with you. So we're going to get a scale out. We're going to weigh. You know, we want to understand, you know, kind of what we're putting in, what we can replicate, what we need to.
Because if it's amazing, it'd be nice to be able to put a recipe out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, if not for us, then for them. But I mean, really, let's be honest, it's for us.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been priming the barrel. It should be ready about next week. Trying to keep the water changed and, you know, get it primed so it doesn't leak anymore. And yeah, we're excited to do this.
So are you going to put it in like a pan, and that way whatever alcohol leaks out, you're going to call that the angel share and sip it with a straw?
Absolutely.
I think that should be a thing.
Oh, I mean, I use a straw. I just may lap it up.
There you go.
There you go. All right, folks. All right, well, we had a blast with this one.
It was an interesting night. I will say I had no idea that they were going to be as different as they were.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, all the islands are all, you know, very different places within Scotland, and yeah, it was a really, really fun journey tonight.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody.
All right, hey, thank you. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave us feedback. We want to know what you think, what you're drinking. So put that on our page. You know, let us know where you guys are at and what you're willing to try. And if we're full of hogwash, we want to know that too. So
Yeah. If you tried something and it was absolutely horrible, let us know.
yeah,
I mean, we'll take the hit for that.
for sure. Okay, folks. All right. Have a good night.
Take care, guys.